Hey guys, welcome back. Another video for you today. Today we're going to cover VLOOKUPs in Excel. Now, VLOOKUPs are perhaps one of the most common features and functions that you'll ever work with in Excel, and they're pretty much an essential component of Excel. I highly recommend, if you're not already familiar with VLOOKUPs, to definitely spend some time getting to learn them. If you are aware of VLOOKUPs already, I'm going to show you two very good use cases, and a second use case which involves classifying data using VLOOKUPs, I think is a very, very helpful feature that very few data analysts actually are aware of. So without further ado, let's begin. We're going to cover the two use cases as I mentioned. The first of which is to join data and append to data. This is your classic VLOOKUP. But the second use case is to actually classify data, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So we have a link to my GitHub. GitHub is a online repository, and there is a file on here called patient age. I want you guys to download this file. We're going to be working off this data file. Now, to get access to this GitHub folder, which is a folder I've created, I will put the link up in the video description. So please check the video description for the link. Once you get access to the link, I want you to paste the URL into a web browser, and then click on the patient age file, and then click go to file, and then you'll find the file right here. And then you can click download, and then that should begin download or open up on your machine. So let's take a look at the Excel file that we have. We have three tabs, and the tab that we're primarily concerned with is the patient ages. I'm just going to quickly adjust my screen here. The patient ages file contains a list of first names and surnames and ages to medical patients. So in here you've got patients as young as 19, some patients as young as 4, and including patients who are as old as 70, or let's have a look here, 84. So we've got 100 patients in this list, and the ask here is to add the patient's country. So to do that, we need to reference one of the data source. So conveniently, we have a tab here called patient country, and what we have here is a last name. So we've got a last name and we've got the country. And if we go back to our patient ages file tab, we can see we have first name and last name, and this is where we can populate country. So what we're going to do is do a VLOOKUP using last name, which appears in both tabs. So for instance, Moen here is from the UK, so our VLOOKUP will automatically pull back UK. And Zachary Price here is also from the UK, so again, our VLOOKUP here is to automatically pull back UK. So this is a classic VLOOKUP. I'll do it really quickly. I'll just show you for those who aren't too aware. You want to type in equal VLOOKUP. You've got the wizard at the bottom here, which you can double click, or you can follow along. So we need to first of all reference our lookup value. This is the field or data point we're going to join our data to. So we're going to join to Moin. And then we want to find the, if you like, the table we're going to source from. So this is what's known as a table array. So I'm going to click on patient country. And essentially, I'm going to highlight everything from row 1. So I'm going to highlight everything here, row from cell A1, and then select column B as well, and go all the way down. And now we've selected all the data here. And then what we want to do is add another comma, and then finally the value we want to return. We want to return column 2. So we need to type in column 2. So remember, column A is column 1, column B is column 2. So we want to return the country, which is in column 2. And then finally, we want to, Excel asks us whether we want an approximate match or an exact match. We need an exact match. So another way to put this in is you can type in false, because we want an exact match, or you can type in what is known as 0. So I'll just put in false here, close this out. Now we've got our VLOOKUP ready. I'm going to hit enter, and we've now got the UK. Now to drag this out, well, to expand this VLOOKUP to all the rows in our file, we need to drag this out, or you can double click on the corner here, left click, and that should bring everything all the way down to the bottom. So now we've got our patient country. This is a classic VLOOKUP. So this is what is known essentially in the data world as a left join. We're left joining our data to another, we're left joining our table here to another table, which is patient country. And we're bringing back a key column field. Right, now it's going to get a bit interesting. This is the second use case that I mentioned. This time we're going to classify data, and this is what I really want to focus this session on. Now, back in, let me explain this one for you guys, just exactly how it works. So, I've now got patient ages, I've got patient country, but I've been asked to classify our data. And let me show you what I mean by that. So, I need to take every single person, and depending on their age, I need to classify whether they're a child, a teenager, an adult, or a senior citizen. So essentially, I need to put in here classification, and this is where I want to bring back one of these 4 values for every single person in this list. Now, how would we do this? Typically, if we're doing this manually, we would type out, we'd check to see this person's age. So this person's 19, so therefore they'd fall under teenager. So I'd take teenager, put teenager there. Next person on the list is 34 years of age. I would take the value from this table here, and essentially I want to classify them as an adult. And then the third value, the third person is 10 years of age. So they would fall under this age range here, which essentially makes them a child. But as you can see, this has taken an awfully long time. So I've got 100 profiles here that I need to essentially classify. Now, believe it or not, you can use the VLOOKUP to do this. And this is where VLOOKUPs come in really powerful and handy. Now, what we need to do is we need to essentially ask Excel VLOOKUP to look up these ages here and then return us one of these classifications based on the age range. Now, in order for us to do this, we need to split the age range from the lower and upper values. So this is how we do that. So I'm just going to click insert here and do that again. And I'm going to type in lower, I'm going to type in upper. And what I'm going to do here is put the lower value here, which is 0, and the upper value here, which is 12. So I want you guys to repeat the same for every instance. So we've got 13 and 19. And then we have 20 and 59. And then finally we have 60 to 100. So now Excel has the lower and upper thresholds, and it can automatically work out what the classification should be. So let's show you how we structure this. So again, we go back to equal VLOOKUP. And remember, the V stands for vertical, which is why the data is vertically laid out here. You do also have a HLOOKUP as well, but we'll cover that another day. So this is what HLOOKUP looks like. So we'll use VLOOKUP, open brackets. We want to return the classification based on the age. So I'm going to select 19. This is the person's age here. Comma, then we'll go back to the table, original reference table. So this is the table here. And we're going to select only these values here. So the lower, upper, and classification values. Comma. And this time I want to return the third column. So 1, 2, 3. Classification is the third column. And then this is where it gets interesting. We only need an approximate match here. We don't need an exact match. So what you type here is true. This is where Excel works its magic and brings back an approximation for what it thinks the value should be. And then now we want to just close that off. Then I want you guys to hit enter, and straight away you can see Excel has successfully managed to identify teenager. If we now drag this down, something's happened here. So what's happened here is that we've got loads of NAs, and that's because if you look at the lookup values here, B1, D5, it's changing all the time. As you move down, Excel is essentially moving down a row in this table reference here. So what we need to do is lock it. We want to lock it to this view here. We don't want Excel to continuously move down. So to lock that, what we need to do, Control Z, and then here in our first cell where we've got the formula, we just want to anchor it. To anchor it, you use a $sign. So we need to anchor the B, which is column B, and row 1. We also need to anchor column D and row 5 as well. So that now will fix the table location in place. So if we move this down now, we can see that B1, D5 is constant, and that's what we need. Now we can just drag this all the way down, double click on the bottom right corner, and then we can see that this has successfully worked. So let's look at a really simple example. So here you can see Rosemary Koob is 7 years of age, from the UK as a child. We can see 7 years of age falls within the right classification. So this is a really powerful way, guys, to do classification. And believe it or not, this is something I used to do manually myself in previous jobs until I discovered the power of VLOOKUPs. And you could do this for anything. It could even be things like, say, for instance, you might want. So, guys, I hope this has been interesting. I hope you found this exercise and these two use cases really useful, and I hope you get to put them into practice. Any questions, please drop them in the chat, in the messages section at the bottom. Otherwise, we'll cover more on Excel in our next session. We will look at pivot tables. Pivot tables are another major component in Excel, and I want to cover pivot tables in detail. So our next video will be on pivot tables. We look at everything from updating pivot tables, refreshing them, visualizing their data, filtering them, and even exporting pivot tables into PowerPoint. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like, please subscribe, and I hope to see you on the next one.